What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATL Live. Joined as always by my co-host Jonathan Holder. Jonathan, what's up, brother?
Man, it's a beautiful day. It's actually a beautiful day.
It is.
So I wouldn't mind a nice little thunderstorm uh, going into the evening.
Yeah, cool it
Um,
down just a wee bit more. Uh, we had an interesting conundrum at my house the end of last week. My AC went out, so I
ooh,
had to yeah. So I'm over here trying to cool off my house with like a window unit until I could get it fixed. Which thankfully enough, um, we got it fixed. Wasn't the end of the world, but a couple of days of it being close to 80 in the house, no bueno, good sir. No
yeah,
bueno.
no, and it's for some reason it seems weird that this like because all you hear about is like people on the West Coast.
Hmm.
Like they're always like, well, we don't have ACs out here, and then you hear people over in Europe like, well, there was a thing where they were like, we're gonna have a heat wave in Europe, and it was gonna get up to like it was like 28 degrees Celsius, which I think translates to something like 73 degrees Fahrenheit,
Yeah,
and
something. Yeah,
78 degrees or something like that. And we're like,
or like
heat
barely
wave. They're
touching
like,
80.
and their excuse was, but we don't have AC, guys. I'm like, well, get it.
Yeah, I'm about
Like,
to say like my brother lives out in California, and they have a bunch of regulations and all that jazz out there about what they can actually have, and he finally moved into a house that had central AC, and he was like, "Thank God!" Like he was talking about, oh, his friends over there were like, "Well, you're from the South, you should be able to deal with it." He said, "Yeah, we deal with it by having air conditioning. Like that's how we deal with it."
yeah. No, we're not all sitting in the south just no ACs and sweltering in the
Right,
not
sweating to death.
110
No, sir.
degrees on the inside because it's turned into an oven.
Yeah, no, sir, not happening. Now, Chris has got the right idea. He's talking about. He says, "What's good, pound for pound?" He said, "Enjoying the stream from the middle of a river." That's what I'm talking about. Like that's where I was a couple weeks back. I wasn't on the river. I was on a lake, but still. Uh, so when we signed off last week, I honestly figured we wouldn't have a show this week. Um, I figured that there wasn't going because we're in that period where unless there's something really major, not major, but if something to talk about to fill up a show, then we probably ain't gonna have a show. And so I just figured that there wasn't going to be much to talk about, but we make that call as we got closer. And lo and behold, uh, like Thursday of last week, I think it was the 13th, whenever the 13th was, 5 days ago, the news broke. Well, I guess before we get into it,
There's
we might,
before we get into it, let's get
let's
into
get into it. So it was Thursday of last week. The news broke from Tom Pelissero that the NFL had first the news broke about the Eagles, and they found that the Eagles didn't tamper with Saquon Barkley,
it. Yep.
and so I was like, all right, when I saw that, I was like, it shouldn't be too far behind with the Falcons, and all we kept hearing leading up to it was the NFL was going to drop the hammer and they were going to make an example out of the Falcons and so on and so forth and people were trying to compare the incident to what transpired with the Dolphins and Tom Brady and Sean Payton a few years back where they lost a first round pick and so mentally I was like gearing myself up for losing a third or higher, pick
Mhm.
and going, of course, and I even already had like in my mind um, come up with, having taken a snap and Kirk has already delivered an L, ha ha ha,
Yeah.
zinger. You know what I'm saying?
Well, like we were talking about like, well, maybe they picked Penix because they knew they weren't going to have a first round
Right.
draft pick,
Exactly.
next year or something like that. Like there's all kinds of reasons that we thought it was going to be worse.
Right. That was exactly what it was. What we thought was part of the narrative, potentially picking Michael Penix. So then, probably maybe an hour or two later, maybe not even that long, the the sentence came down, the punishment came down, and the NFL is docking the Atlanta Falcons a 2025 fifth round pick. And they're fining the team $250,000 and Terry Fontenot $50,000. So a fifth round pick and $300,000 worth of fines. That's constitutes as pretty much a slap on the wrist.
Well,
I mean,
because what they found, if I remember, if I comprehended it properly, was during the legal tampering
right,
portion. Okay, after the teams and the players had already agreed in principle to the deals, they reached out to the players specifically for like logistical stuff,
right. Like putting
or the
together.
players reached out to them, or whatever the case may be. But
Mhm.
they basically were getting them like, make sure here's the info on where the plane's going to be, and this and that and the other. So yeah, like at the end of the day, this was during the legal tampering period, after they had already agreed in principle to the contracts they were going to sign. And the only thing that really happened there was we just basically called to make sure they understood where to go, and how they were going to get here
Exactly.
to actually sign it. So I mean, to be completely honest, sounds like a big nothing burger, and probably is going to be something that in the future is going to probably be legislated to not be a finable
That big, yeah,
offense.
right, exactly. Not be that big of a deal. So, uh, let's take the last fifth round picks up until probably about 2005. You might miss out on a name such as Tyler Algier. That could be a big
Yeah,
deal. Or you can miss out on Jordan Miller. You remember Jordan Miller, right? You
absolutely.
could miss out on
You can miss out
uh
on Grady Jarrett.
obviously that's the biggest name. That's the name everybody's going to point to, but I'm trying to uh like show that there's a lot more non-Grady Jarrett's than Grady Jarrett's, right?
Right. Well,
So,
by and large, fifth from the fifth on, you could probably go for the fourth, but really from the starting in the fifth, sixth, and seventh, fifth, you can find some diamonds in the rough.
oh
You
yeah,
can find those in the sixth and seventh, but you're more likely to find them in the fifth, where guys drop for various reasons. You take a chance on them and things work out. Maybe a medical history that scared a lot of teams. You take a flyer on him at the fifth, and he doesn't. He goes through his entire career virtually injury free. Those kinds of situations can arise, but you're basically looking at guys that are going to be rotational pieces, that are going to be players for your team, but they're not going to be the.
what about a Stanley Mapanga? Do you remember a Stanley Mapanga?
I like Stanley
He had
Mapong.
violent hands, man.
Violent hands.
And then Jonathan Massaqua. Like
Again, cool
we
name.
just we just kept wanting him to break through.
Yep.
Um, what about let's see. Ooh, the beer man, Croy Bierman was a
I mean, he played in the league for quite a few
yeah,
years.
hey.
He did okay.
Now I'll say this. We might miss out on a decent rotational running back. Jaquiz Rogers, Quadre Olison, Brian Hill,
Yeah.
Avery Williams, cornerback
Yeah.
slash running back slash return guy. You can miss out on a Ricardo Allen. Decent,
Yeah. Well,
decent playing career.
right. He had a like once he moved to safety, that really like unlocked him.
Oh yeah, for what he
Eh,
was, yeah, it
yeah.
gave him. So is it a big deal yes, but no. Like you don't want to lose a draft pick, period.
Mhm.
But it wasn't what people were like hinting at, and not even just talking heads, but there were even like Falcon fans and pseudo content creators that were just convinced themselves that it was a first round pick and we deserved to lose a first round pick. And I was like, what are y'all talking about? There's, you know, I would get it if we had done what the Miami Dolphins had did, which in two off seasons in a row, they privately met, or the owner privately met with Tom Brady and um, Sean Payton, like on his yacht and all this other jazz, trying to put together, when Brady was a free agent coming to Miami.
Yep.
Like you did that two off seasons in a row while he was still under contract.
Yep.
Like, yes, I don't know if that's still worth a first, but that's the definition of tampering.
I mean, well, but that was like mid January or February when those, especially with the, I remember hearing about the Tom Brady stuff happening either like super late in the season or very, very, very early in the off season. I mean, it was uh like nowhere close to a legal tampering period at
Right.
all.
Right.
So you had that, like, it's that kind of brazen nature that I
Right.
think is where you really, that why you get that first round.
And he's like, plus it was a divisional rival. Right. It was
Yeah.
like there was a lot more to the Dolphins thing and the reason why they lost a first rounder. And I was like, what they're saying that we did is to me no way, shape, or form comparable to what Brady and the Dolphins and Peyton did. So that's and so how people came up with the idea that we were going to lose a first. Now, the part that really made me laugh, and I went on a more of a Twitter tirade that day than I normally do. Normally, I'm not much for like crap talking, but
Throw shade.
the amount of like crap that comes out of the what is it? It is the Pro Football Talk, which is NBC's. Um, I think it's NBC. It's their like football show, but it has some of the most annoying people on it. It has like Mike Florio is like the worst in my opinion. And then this is also the one with Chris Simmons, who is just has some of the weirdest takes when it comes
Yep.
to football. So I tweeted out like shortly after, um, you know, Tom Pelissero. I was like, I wonder if Florio's somewhere slamming his desk because it's not a first rounder. Because he was one of the talking heads that as soon as Kirk had his press conference, he was one of the first ones that like, did he just admit to tampering? And I was like, what are you talking about? When he
Yeah.
said he talked to the trainer or whatever. And
Yeah. Like, and like, look, at the end of the day, like, I believe that there should be an exception when you're talking about an injured player moving from one training staff that's been helping him to another training staff. There should be, especially once you've agreed to the contract, uh like, can he back out? Sure. Does that happen often? No. Once you agree in principle to that, you don't want to do that too often where you're like, psych, just kidding. I'm
oh yeah,
actually going to
no,
go over
that'll
here and sign. You don't want to do that. So once you agree in principle and you say, I'm going to sign on the dotted line, guys are going to sign on the dotted line. So once that happens, for him to be on the road to Atlanta to sign his contract, and he maybe is reaching out to the medical staff in Atlanta to kind of go over their things, kind of
mm-hmm.
make sure all of the information from the previous medical staff is being given, and the new medical staff has all of it and knows what's going on. That stuff should be, I don't think there should be a penalty for that. just because he hasn't actually signed on the dotted line.
Right. Now the deal
So,
is as you know, the key part of the NFL findings on the Falcons is the violation found that occurred during the 2-day negotiation window, not before, as you said earlier, and the fact that this all because it happened with 3 players. It wasn't just Cousins, right?
right.
So it was just staff getting a little like jumpy in a sense.
Yeah.
Either staff or just players reaching out or what have you. But I'm with you on that there, Fred Butts. We appreciate that. And it says, I don't understand the hate for the Falcons. I don't even I really don't. But Florio has always, anytime he had a chance to take a shot, he is always taking a shot at the Falcons. I don't know if it's just
Florio, because he's been, I guess, in his past life he was a lawyer. Um, Always wants to like really lawyer things up.
right. Yep.
And he was like, but this doesn't, something still doesn't smell right. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
technically it's this and blah 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 and all this other stuff. And it's like, just when you're wrong,
Just
just
be wrong.
just be
Just be.
wrong.
It's okay. Hey, look, when I'm
It is
wrong,
perfectly fine to be wrong.
right? And
I'm
so
wrong
it
all
was
the time.
right. It was absolutely hilarious because it wasn't long after it broke. Then the tidal wave of the tears of pro football talk started flowing. One of the first tweets was the NFL only took a 5th-round pick and imposed minimal fines on the Falcons for tampering with, and in all caps, 3 different players. Message to the league: tamper away. I'm like, you're an idiot, dude. Like it's not tampering. As you said, in the next collective bargaining agreement, this probably, or maybe even in the later on in the offseason, it would not surprise me one bit if that went away. Um, and then he kept going. Why would the Falcons talk directly to players about travel arrangements and risk tampering violations when they were already legally talking to their agents and could just done it through them? Hint, they weren't talking about travel arrangements. I'm like, piss off, dude. he
Like,
just he
okay,
went on.
okay. Let's just say they weren't talking about travel arrangements. Maybe they were talking about, hey, did you, we're gonna send you the playbook to your email. Let's make sure
Right.
we have the right email address.
Yeah.
Make sure we're doing this. Make sure we're doing that. Like, what is it like? At the end of the day, you're in a legal tampering period. You're allowed to negotiate with the agent. Okay, you went ahead and negotiated. Everybody has agreed. Hey, we like this. We like this deal. We like this deal. Here's, I got to now make my way to go and actually sign the deal and make it permanent. But for all intents and purposes, everybody agrees I'm going to play for you guys next season. I just got to get there. And in the intervening time, you're talking about different things like that, whatever. Like, why that can't be a thing is, and maybe there needs to be a thing where you notify the like once that notification comes down of uh we have agreed in principle and we have agreed to terms
Mm-hmm.
on this. There needs to be something that's sent to the league office, and the league office now is aware, like, hey, these guys, and maybe there is.
Oh, I'm
I
sure there
am
is.
sure there is.
I'm sure
But
there
something,
is.
that lets the front office know these guys are going to sign with this team. From that point forward, like, honestly, I'm not saying they can get out there and start practicing until they sign the contract, but I'm saying if they just need to talk with them about, let's make sure we're sending you important information to the right places. Let's make sure
Right.
that we're, when it comes to injured players or players coming off of injuries, make sure that we're getting medical staff synced up,
Now,
all that jazz. I'm totally. I just don't see why that would be an issue.
I completely agree as far as, but I'll play a devil's advocate here a little bit with the whole, why didn't they just talk to the agent? A good agent, I would imagine, would have all that information, and should, have, if that's par for the course. But again, at the end of the day, if it's happening during what is called the legal tampering period, then like, is it really tampering? Like, you know, you're using an agent to negotiate as a third party. Once you've agreed to it in principle, why then can I not just go ahead and talk to the team? So I think it's one of those teams were doing it anyway. It was just hush hush, which is how you got to the legal tampering period. And now that this has happened, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if um, this becomes part of what you can do during the legal tampering period, because now it's out there. You know what I'm saying? It's because this stuff was happening
Yeah.
anyway. It just took, Kirk Cousins just had a slip of the tongue at the podium, and everybody, aka Mike Florio and his cronies, decided to go off the deep end about, oh, were the Falcons tampering? Um, Chris, what size trout? I need to know. Like,
I mean, come
is
on.
it
Yeah,
big?
if you
You
cut you
know,
a baby trout, that's nothing to talk about.
right? Is it a keeper? That's all I'm trying to figure out. And how many? Like, can you get a dinner out of this said trout? Okay. Anyway, back
Uh,
to
but
what.
but like Florio is one of those guys that looks at football and tries to figure out what I don't know what he tries to figure out honestly, but like he's one of those guys that really espouses the whole like fumbling out of the end zone by the offense shouldn't go to the defense. It should be like put it back on the 20 and give it back to the offense. And I'm like,
Well,
no.
Florio, in my opinion, was one reason why I don't even follow the Pro Football Talk account anymore, is because Florio, his his business model is to essentially complain about the NFL. Like, that's the bend that he takes, is to complain. And I find it hilarious that if it wasn't for this entity, this business for you to complain about, you wouldn't have a platform to then do your complaining.
Yeah.
And so it's always just one of those things. That's why I don't pay much attention to him. But I was glad to see him take an L on Thursday with all that. Chris says it was a 15-inch rainbow trout. That's what's up, Chris. We could make a
Nice.
meal out of that.
Yeah, you
That could
can.
feed me. So I don't know what you're going to eat, but maybe you need to catch another trout for yourself. But I appreciate you catching me a rainbow trout. We go down to Florida once a year with my company and do like a lot of catch a lot of sand trout, and they're really good. So I would imagine rainbow trout are just as good. All right, so that kind of takes care of the Florio deal. So after riding the high, so to speak, of the Florio, um, we then get another like low. I was like, "Daggum it, can we not just catch a win here?" And I don't know if y'all saw the video, but apparently a video was not leaked. They've been
Mhm.
putting out a lot more of the draft day behind the scenes, which I think are great.
Yeah.
I really wish that,
Well,
if
once things are done and done,
right, once things are
you know,
done and you've had a chance, just like with Hard Knocks and all that jazz, you've had a chance to scrub any kind of trade secrets or whatever out of there. I love these draft videos. And we got to see one where the Chicago Bears, picking at 9, tried to swap picks with the Falcons and give them an extra fourth so that they made sure that they secured Romo Dunze.
yep,
And the Falcons obviously didn't take it, and they stayed
yep,
pat and selected Penix. Well, you know how that optic gets viewed is
yes,
you threw away an extra fourth that you could have had. Um,
yep,
and I will say I am of that camp that, you know, how paranoid, I guess you could say, because it's really to me, and when we were talking about bends before and slants and the way we view things, right? Even though I haven't like spoke on it a ton, I'm still under the impression that you drafted out of a place of what if and a place of fear when you drafted Penix, and it's a culmination of a lot of things. But to me, that's where the when they Saints tried to draft Mahomes, the past 2 years was when you moved on from Matt Ryan and backcourt, like all those things say are like, oh, I don't ever want to be in that position again. Okay, fine, whatever, we move on, right? But then this is like pouring salt in an almost healed wound because to me this doubles down on it because the only reason that I could come up with that you don't make that trade is if you are worried Chicago then trades it away to somebody else who comes up and picks Penix.
We know that there were teams behind us that ended up picking up quarterbacks that wanted Penix. Okay,
Correct.
if Penix or if they had an opportunity to move up to get Penix, they would have done it. Or if he had dropped to them, they would have taken him. Right. At the end of the day, we know that there were teams back there. I get if we know there were teams back there, even after the fact, I guarantee you Terry knew. Or
Oh
at the
yeah,
very if he didn't know, he
he had a
he knew
strong,
he had
like
a
strong
strong
inclination, a
yes.
strong inclination, and I don't disagree.
But, but here's the thing: if we're sitting there at 8 on the clock, okay, we get a call from the Bears. The Bears are saying, "Hey, we'll give you this. We'll swap picks and we'll give you this extra fourth to
Right.
move up to swap picks. You go to 9, we go to 8. Okay, yes, we could have done that. Was there a good chance that we would have still been able to pick up Penix at 9? There's a chance.
Oh
I'm not
yeah.
going to say good, bad, indifferent, whatever. There was still a chance we could have picked up Penix at 9 if we still wanted to do that. Okay,
Hmm.
but once you agree to that, you lose all control.
No doubt.
Okay,
No doubt.
you lose all control, all leverage that you had in that moment to pick the player that you want.
Correct.
Okay, and that you were like, this is the guy. If we're to believe him, this was the guy they wanted that high in the draft.
Right.
Okay, if that was it, and he falls to you at 8, we're not talking about going back to 12. We're not talking about going back to 10. We're talking about going back one space to 9. But even dropping that one space, once you let go of that 8th pick, then anything could happen. Now,
No
the
doubt.
Bears, if they hold on to it, are they picking a quarterback again? No, they're not.
No, of
Okay,
course
they're
yeah,
not going to double dip in the top 10 quarterbacks. We know that.
you
But
know that for
we
sure.
have no we have no control over what they do with that pick other than we can once we give it to them, they can do whatever. They can make the pick for Odunze like they sounds like they were going to do, or they could have been talking to the Raiders.
Denver or
They could
yeah,
Denver
right.
or
The Raiders,
whoever.
Denver, or I think that was
Yep.
the only other two that picked up a
Yep.
quarterback in the first round. It
They
was
could have been
Denver.
talking to them about like, hey, if we can move up to 8, uh, do you guys maybe they had some side conversations on them like, hey, if we can get to 8 and Penix is still there, would you
Yeah,
what
what
can
would you
we
give
what
us? I got you.
yeah what can we do
And
here? So
I'm 100% with you. One little real quick, and we'll get back to our conversation. You're correct, Fred. We are win or lose. We're always end up being the butt of the joke of the NFL,
yep,
and unfortunately, a lot of times we do it to ourselves. But even when we're not doing it to ourselves, we seem to be the ones that everybody wants to joke and laugh at.
yeah,
But back to the
because everybody's so worried about what we do with our quarterback position, but nobody else in the NFL had an opportunity for Lamar Jackson. Nobody
yep,
else in the
that's it
NFL had an opportunity for this guy.
for
Nobody
whatever.
else.
Yep.
It's just it is what it is.
Right. And but I'm kind of with Tony Wright. Like the Falcons should have still made the move with Chicago as they wanted a wide receiver. And because I would frame it like this. Yes, 100% sure. 100 everything what you just said. is 100% accurate. Once you let go of that pick and you trade it, like it's out of your control. You could have as much gentlemanly agreement that I'll trade you this pick uh, on the grounds that you won't trade it to nobody else. And that guy GM could say yes, and then he could turn around and flip you the bird and do what he wants to with it. And you just won't ever do any business with him again. And that's completely understandable. But to me, that's where you have like contingency plans. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, because to me, the prospect of I will flip you my pick, take your fourth, and gamble that if the guy I really want, Penix, isn't there, okay, fine. Then I will take, you know, Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, Leo Latu, and or any of the cornerbacks that were there at the time, and roll to the dice that way. Because to me, Latu, Verse, or Turner, and a fourth is a better prospect for the next year or two than Penix riding the bench.
But let's take this out the other way, or
Okay,
let's look at this from a different perspective.
sure.
Let's is would you rather have, okay, Latu versus whoever, and that fourth for for potentially maybe something this year, but maybe not anything till next year, like production wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, or would you have what you believe is a franchise quarterback on your roster? Uh-oh. I think I lost you. God bless it.
I don't know if anybody's still there. Um, everything just went. Everything just kind of crashed. Sorry about that. We'll give Jonathan a second to see if he makes his way back on. Uh, hopefully he does. Let me give. That was crazy. Like everything on my end just completely locked up and got kicked off. So I don't know what the deal was. Let's see here. Hold on. Still rocking. Okay. All right. We'll get back on track. Y'all give us just a second. Um, I'm gonna shoot Jonathan a text and see if he's gonna try to jump back on. Hmm. Unfortunately, that's a something that you can't necessarily control. Um, no, I completely agree. That nobody said the Chiefs drafted in fear. I get it, and my thought process when I said it felt like they were drafting in fear was more of the comments that were coming out afterwards. Terry Fontenot recalling being in the draft room the year Mahomes was drafted. The Saints were planning on drafting uh, Patrick Mahomes, and then the Chiefs jumped them. And this is the story out of Terry Fontenot's mouth, not mine. So it's not. I'm not creating this narrative when I talk about. I get the feeling that they're drafting in fear. I'm not trying to create that narrative. If I am, if it comes off that way, I apologize. I'm just taking what is being told to me and then interpreting it myself. Okay. So when Terry Fontenot recalls a story of being in the Saints war room the year they were going to draft Mahomes and the Chiefs trade up, draft Mahomes, and then somebody in that war room from the Chiefs war room texts somebody in the Saints war room saying, "We got him." And that's what sticks in Terry's head, whether that's a bullshit story or not, tells me that, like, okay, you're making decisions based on history, which is fine. This is what we do, but you're using what I would call, okay, I don't want this to happen again. I don't want my air conditioner to break again, so I'm going to make damn sure I do all the maintenance. And you say, oh, well, that's just preventative maintenance. That's smart. Yes, I'm not saying you're wrong. But when you take that type of thinking to team building that you do every year, right? It just it comes across as odd in the year that you paid a ton of money to a free agent QB to then spend a high draft pick on another QB. So that's the only reason why you then this video pops up or this video comes out of you declining a pick from the Bears, uh, who just wanted to swap a pick and give you a fourth. And the deal's like, oh no, I don't want to do that because I don't want to lose a chance on drafting Michael Penix. Now, the positive spin here, if you want the positive spin, and see if you agree with me, Jonathan. The positive spin is that should reinforce the amount of confidence they have in Michael Penix.
Yeah.
Like that, they're like, no, a fourth round pick isn't worth what I think Penix is going to turn into.
Well, that's what I was trying to talk about before I apparently dropped off the face of the
No, it
earth.
wasn't just you. It was me. It was my time. I was over here trying to hide the comment, and it wouldn't let me. And then all of a sudden, everything just I had to shut down the internet and turn it back and pull it back up. And I was like, "What the crap?" Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Uh, but yeah, it's who knows. But at the end of the day, what I was trying to say was Latu verse at a fourth round pick. One of
Right.
those two guys at a fourth round pick. It, would you rather have that, or would you rather guarantee that you get what you believe? Okay, and we've heard coaches all over the league have talked about this. If you find what you believe to be a franchise quarterback, you
Right.
do what you can to get them.
You don't walk
Okay,
away from it.
you don't walk away from
And
it.
I
So,
have said
so
that a million times in regards to like free agency, you don't walk away from a franchise QB, but it's the same deal here. If you think
yeah,
this guy has that potential, you draft him.
right. And so do you, in that situation, do you take that defensive end and a fourth if things go completely bell end, right? They completely just go crazy. And yeah, we traded to the Chicago Bears. And then last second, they traded to Denver. And Denver jumps up, grabs Penix. And now, yeah, we got our fourth, but now we're out the guy that we coveted most in this draft. Because you can't tell me, potentially did they covet maybe some of the quarterbacks that went higher? Sure, but the guys that they realistically thought were going to be there at 8, this had to have been your most coveted guy.
Right.
Okay, this had to have been, and you don't take a guy like him right after signing Kirk Cousins, after tampering with him. Um, you don't do that unless you really believe this guy has it, right? So if we're just talking, let's say that we weren't we we already had a starting quarter. Say if we still had Matt Ryan prime years, whatever. or we've already had a season of Kirk Cousins and we're like, hey, this guy's pretty good still. I think we're good. And, you get in this same exact scenario and you're either taking a Latu, a Verse, or whatever at 8, or a cornerback or whatever at 8. And the Chicago Bears come up because they want Roma Dunze or they want some other player or whoever. And they're like, hey, we'll swap you 8 and 9 and we'll give you an extra fourth. Would I take that then? Absolutely.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Any other position besides QB and what you believe to be a franchise QB at that, I'm taking that same deal 100 times out of 100.
I get it, and Millie's got a good point. And look, I'm not trying to. I know I come across in this particular instance. I know I come across on the negative side of the meter, but if we're looking at the full meter, right, and this is full positive and this is full negative, I'm on one hash negative on the negative, right at the middle. You know what I'm saying? I still think at the end of the day, time will tell with any of them. Penix has just as much of a chance to be a success as anybody else does. And when was the last time a rookie pass rusher really came in and made a difference? All this kind of stuff. And Millie's got a good point. At the same time, the best way to teach a young QB/successor is to have a damn good veteran to learn from. Remember, Terry's biggest thing is long-term success. They have definitely. Terry has tried his fourth year being here now to build for now and for the future.
Yep.
You say, "Oh, every GM does that." No, they don't.
No.
No, they don't. So, you can make all the jokes you want to, but for a few years in a row, it was F them picks out there in LA.
Because all they wanted to get a Super Bowl.
Right. They wanted to get a ring. They succeeded. And then last year got lucky in a sense, hit on some players. Puka Nakua, Matthew Stafford bounced back and was playing well, and you still had future Hall of Famer Aaron Donald. It's going to be really interesting to see how their defense plays this year without, because anytime I study the LA's defense to try to figure out what we're going to do, I almost stopped because I'm like, well, shit, we ain't got Aaron Donald. So
yeah, I mean he's the perpetual triple team.
Yes, he
on
is
that defense.
right now. You hope a healthy, rejuvenated Grady Jarrett comes in and gives you a semblance of Aaron Donald, but he ain't Aaron Donald.
No.
Even in his best years, he's not Aaron Donald, and so it's going to be interesting to see how it goes this year. With the defense that we run. All right, so that kind of puts a bow. What? What are you wowing?
Penix is the only QB from the class I know for a fact will not be a good QB.
This is only missed. He never says anything like he's definition of a troll.
I know.
It's I saw it, rolled my eyes, and kept moving because right now, as it stands, it doesn't mean much of anything. But going into training camp out in Denver, Zach Wilson has a leg up on Bo Nix. So at least that's what's being reported. So who knows what any of these guys are going to be. But yeah, that's hilarious to think that that's the only one. Of course, buddy. Of course. All right. Anyway.
I was like, wait, what? It just surprised the hell out of me.
I got you. Understood. But moving on to what we got today, we got another high. High, low, back to another high.
I mean, it's the roller coaster all Falcons fans know.
That's right. It's the it's a comforting feeling, the highs and the lows. So it got announced today that Matt Ryan will be inducted into the Ring of Honor, and rightfully so. I don't care what any of y'all say. He is the best player in Falcons history.
Oh yeah.
In my opinion, whatever. I don't care, right? Because it wasn't until Matt Ryan got here that you started having a semblance of consistency in
Yep.
as far as being successful, as far as being talked about as being a contender. So you can say what you want to about prime time. You can say what you want to about whoever it is. Matt Ryan to me is the top echelon of the centerpiece of the Mount Rushmore of Atlanta Falcons players. And so to have it announced that he gets to go into the Ring of Honor, well, well deserving, much fitting, and uh, the way they did it, I thought was pretty cool. Did you get a chance to watch that video?
I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but like I know that he thought all he was doing was coming in to talk to the team, um, but I've seen. I was telling you before the show. I was like, I like because we've seen this in the past where they get somebody to come in for whatever reason. They get there and then they surprise them with the Ring of Honor induction. Um, and yeah, it was so when I heard that that's how that went, I was like, oh yeah, I love it when they do that.
Right. Yeah, so they brought him in to like talk to the team and talk to the team about what it means to be a Falcon, right? Which I thought was an interesting um, way to bring him on. You know what I'm saying? To bring him in because this is like he's officially retired. So you could tell there was no bad blood as far as the 2 years spent in Indy, that kind of thing. That probably won't barely even be remembered. The season in Indy. Uh, so he comes in and he's talking about what it means to be a Falcon. He's bringing up guys like Todd McClure, like the locker room that he came into,
Yep.
bringing up guys like Todd McClure, talking about Roddy White, and it was all like good and fun stuff. He even talked about the difference of when Tony Gonzalez came to the team in his second year, like his attitude versus Todd McClure's, and he's really talking about how like the locker room itself is um a a mix of people, a mix of cultures and personalities and attitudes and backgrounds and stuff like that. And then he said, you know, that's what this city is. This city is a mix of people from all over, from all different backgrounds and all different walks of life and stuff like that. And then he made a comment that years ago I probably would have bristled at, but it's so true. He said if if you get it going, this city will come to life around you.
Yep.
He's like he said, I've seen it. You get it going, and this city will be on fire. And I thought I was like, that's such a true statement. In a city that has the winning culture of the Atlanta Braves, the football culture of UGA football, um, sometimes I see it when I ride around because I'm blessed with a job that sends me all over this state, and I don't see a lot of Falcon stuff on people's cars or what have you. But Buddy in them that run in 2012, that run in 2016, and even the year after in 2017, you saw the memorabilia, you saw the flags and the stickers on people's cars and the folks wearing the merchandise. And if you start producing consistency, this team will jump behind you. Um, and it's an awesome thing to see.
Yeah, it's a the, Atlanta is a town that wants badly, badly to be a full time football like NFL football town. It wants it. Okay, but in order to get there, and I think in order to sustain it, even through some down years from time to time, is you need to have that kind of sustained success. Yeah, you don't have to win Super Bowls every 5 years, 10 years, but you gotta get into the playoffs consistently. You gotta, some years, yeah, you're gonna get kicked out in the first round. Some years you're gonna get kicked out in the second round. Some years you're gonna make it to the NFC Championship game. You're gonna get kicked out there, and but you do that long enough, like on a consistent basis, then you're going to not only build, cause the fan base that's currently here to rise up, uh, and show the love, but you're going to then get some of the younger people that are in this that are growing up in the city, and they're going to see what's going on, and they're going to want to be a part of it, and they're going to be made into football fans for life. They're going to be Falcons football fans for life. And you're going to, that's just going to build the fan base in general. And then when you do have some down years, you're still going to have that fan base that's going to be there rooting for you. That's going to, try to help pick you up as best they can. Um, but you can't have 6, 7, 8 years in a row of sustained, uh, uh, not making the playoffs, not being over 500.
Oh yeah, just
That's
bad all the way around.
sustained losing that you're seeing, and expect for things to be great.
Oh yeah,
It's just not. It's not going to be that way. And it's
and
like, if you go, like, yes, New England, they have been blessed with a dynasty kind of unlike we've ever seen.
right.
Okay, and so yeah, they've had that, but I guarantee you, they go 10 years without making the playoffs. Like, they may still sell out the stadium, but that town in general is not going to be the same town that they were when they were in the middle of their dynasty.
Oh, for
It
sure.
just isn't.
No,
Um,
exactly, 100%. People want like winning cures all in that aspect. And Tony, you ain't kidding. He goes, I bet you saw a lot of Falcons gear 2016, 20. You should have been at training camp 2017.
oh
Holy
man,
crap. That
man,
was insane.
yeah.
Like that, like I have never seen it like that. 2017, 2018, training camp was nuts. And
2017, like, we were good enough to win the Super Bowl that year. If we had gotten past
Philly,
if we'd gotten past Philly, and they only won by, like, I think it was a point, 3 at the most. But if we had gotten past Philly, we would have beaten, I think if we had beaten Philly, we would have gone on to play Minnesota, and Minnesota was not beating anybody that following week. We would have been in the Super Bowl for 2 years straight.
yep.
And I'm very likely we win that second Super Bowl we're in.
Yeah, yeah, and
Um,
you still have Dan Quinn as your head coach.
oh yeah,
I
you
mean,
you win the Super Bowl. Dan Quinn's probably got at minimum 5, 6 years, no matter what happens,
oh
before
yeah,
he gets canned.
easily.
So
But yeah, so but Matt Ryan being in the Ring of Honor, I think somebody had put up a picture on Twitter of Michael Vick and Roddy White when they put those guys in, and I said, if only Julio had done the right thing and retired, they could have had that because that would have been fitting as well to have Julio go in, but instead, like I kind of thought it was kind of comical in a sense. Like they honored Arthur Blank as being like in the Ring of Honor as well, and I was like, but like I don't know why that struck me as odd. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but it's just like he's the owner of the team, you know. um, so it was that was kind of comical. Yeah, they even put out like a little thing, Matt Ryan and Arthur Blank. But I guess Arthur Blank's not the founder of the team, obviously. So I guess he does get to be in the uh, the Ring of Honor as well.
yeah,
But yeah, that kind of made me chuckle when I saw that uh, being thrown out there. Is there anybody else that isn't in the Ring of Honor that you think should be at this junction?
I'd have to go and look at all the names. I don't know every single name that's in the Ring of Honor.
Let's see if I can pull it up real quick.
I mean, because like all the guys I could probably think of, Warwick Dunn, he's probably in.
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah, even if it wasn't for his on the field stuff, which was really really good, like the amount of stuff that he's done since then, or even during his playing days and after his playing days, with the amount of homes they've given away, stuff like that. John Abraham, I've got to think he's got to be in the Ring of Honor.
Yeah, Tony Wright's saying John Abraham. I'm trying to see if I can find like who all is in the Ring of Honor. Introducing. Oh, this is a video. Let's see. Oh, I just want a list. Come on now.
I know, that's what I'm trying to find.
Oh, here we go. William Andrews.
Okay.
Steve Barkowski, obviously.
Okay.
Tommy Novus.
Okay.
Obviously, Jesse
Tommy
Tuggle.
Novus should be in the Hall of Fame.
Right. Jesse Tuggle.
Okay.
Jeff Van Note.
Okay.
Mike Keene. Don't know that name.
Don't know the name off the top of my head now.
Claude Humphrey.
Yeah.
Obvious. Yeah. Deion Sanders. Obviously. That makes sense. Gerald Riggins. Or Gerald Riggs. Okay. Not Riggins.
Yeah.
Riggs.
Yeah. Riggs.
Riggs. Warwick Dunn. Roddy White. And Todd McClure. So that's who's in the Ring of Honor thus far. And so I'm trying to think of would you put Tony Gonzalez in there? I mean, I know you didn't draft him. Is it only for guys who
I mean
they put Deion Sanders in and he only played what? How many seasons with the Falcons? 3 or 4?
4 or 5, something like
that.
Yeah.
And he went on to play with other teams. So I think somebody like a John Abraham or Tony Gonzalez would make sense to me. Ooh, I like that one. Matt Bryant should be in the ring. He won us a ton of games. Matt Bryant should him and Morton Anderson should definitely be in the Ring of Honor.
Yeah. 5 seasons for Deion.
Okay.
Let's see. Tony Gonzalez.
Michael Turner. Like, I don't see why you wouldn't put Turner in.
The only thing I can really say is he had 3 really good seasons. Once you got past that, he kind of
he faded off, but those were some really good seasons.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I think you'll see Grady Jarrett will be there. I think Jake Matthews, very good chance he'll be there.
Yeah, I think so. Like, okay, all right, let's do off of a current list of Falcons. Like, I think Jake Matthews, there's a real good chance he finishes out his career here. He's been like super solid his whole career, better than average. Grady Jarrett, definitely. That would be cool to have Jesse Tuggle and Grady Jarrett in there.
Yep.
That would be. I wonder how many other father-son Ring of Honor would be. Let's see.
Well, I mean, it's really, really early. Bill Goldberg.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm like. He's over here. Bill Goldberg.
I mean, I'd put him in, but that's just
hey,
man. I'll tell you, if for no other reason than 1998 when he won the world title on Nitro at the Georgia Dome I was hype as hell that night. But no, like it might be a little bit premature. But I'm blanking on his name. Right guard.
talking about Chris Lindstrom.
Like
Like
if
if
he could take,
If he keeps his trajectory, I would definitely say Lindstrom would be one to add. Um, I would think like would you put Julio in there? See,
I
like
don't know.
us,
I don't know everything that went on behind the scenes.
right,
We obviously know like he wasn't happy with how things were going. He didn't like the fact that we got rid of Dan Quinn.
right.
But I don't know if he like
I don't know if he
really
left on bad
alienated
terms
the
with Arthur Blank or whatever.
yeah.
Ooh, that's a good call. Millie says JB3. If he keeps playing the way he's been playing, he'll go down as a Falcons legend. Most people won't even remember that he played for the Bengals to
Yeah.
begin his career. Because you know, if he plays like he did last year and he does that until like the wheels fall off, so to speak, I could
Yep.
see that. Um, I don't know. Even though like he's like, I would put Julio in, regardless of the reasons against it. See, I think this is where I would say our like recency bias. Uh, you left out of here kind of like a diva, kind of clouds the years that he was an absolute freak, an absolute alien on the field
Yeah.
for us. I think, yeah, King says Julio should be in there. He's been an outstanding guy on and off field. Can't write him all off all the he did for us, even after how he left. You can't, and that's where I say like the
Well,
recent,
again, yeah, again, that's why I said like we don't know everything that happened behind the
right,
scenes. Like for all we know, yeah, he's like, hey, I'm out of there because he just wasn't happy with the situation, but he was still on good terms with management. Like, hey, I appreciate everything,
right.
but I'm just really not like I need to move on.
There's
And
there's a
there's
lot of assuming that fans do, and we do it as well. That's what we get on here to do for an hour. A lot of times, there's a lot of assuming that goes on that we don't have privy to. So, I think he eventually gets in. I think if
well,
he go ahead.
well, and Only Miss here says, but Julio was the best thing that happened to us ever, and I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna say the best thing that ever happened to us was Matt Ryan,
Yeah, I'll make
by
that.
far.
Yeah, I'll make that all day long, and I'll say that because I can point to seasons where Roddy was out and Julio was out, and Harry Douglas caught over 1,000 yards and was catching touchdowns, and you know the year that Julio forced his way out and all this other jazz, and damn near broke the rookie tight end record with Kyle Pitts with Julio Jones. So, or I mean, with Matt Ryan. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
So
Uh,
I got a couple here. Deion Jones, I would say he goes in just simply because he tormented Breeze and the Saints while he was still good.
Maybe if they ever put up a like Ring of Honor like plays, like
Also, like
the couple pick
honorable
sixes.
mentions.
Yeah, honorable mentions. Yeah, if they were to throw in some honorable mentions, I would
Yeah,
definitely throw.
well, there's the Ring of Honor, and then there's the Ring of Honorable Mentions.
Yeah, the ring of honorable mentions. That's it. Maybe we start doing that. Yeah,
Well,
the ring of honorable mentions.
and like, look, King, I know you love Vic. Okay,
Yeah.
I honestly do. Uh, you're not gonna like he's never gonna make it to the Ring of Honor. I mean,
He already
if I'm wrong and he makes it, I will not be Florio. I will not pound my table and cry like a little baby about it. But at the end of the
Oh,
day,
they
I don't think he makes it in simply because you know when all that stuff was going down, he Arthur Blank goes to him, asks him when all the allegations are out there now, like he goes to him and says like, hey, what's the deal? He flat lied to Arthur Blank's face, and I don't think that you come back from that
yeah, I mean he was
to be in the Ring of Honor. Now
yeah,
they
he was
apparently have a really good
honored.
relationship
Yeah,
now,
they
but
got a great relationship. He was and maybe he does. And like you said, if he does, we won't Florio, you know. But I think as far as like between Dion and Vic, they put the Falcons on the map per se as far as like a team and a fun destination. And then, Ryan comes along and elevates that even more into a contender status for a good 14 years. So that's the
Yep.
no Keith Brooking, the 6 yard sheriff, did not make it.
No. No.
Let's see. Let's see.
The
What
the pro,
about
the
tight
pro,
end
the
Algie Klumper?
yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him in it, but King, you're going to say you give Vic the weapons of Matt. We have Super Bowls. He had weapons of Matt in Philadelphia, and they still didn't win Super Bowls.
No.
Like they had a better defense, had a better offensive line, had better weapons, and they still didn't win there. And that was after when he was actually paying attention and
Doing
studying the playbook. When he was in Atlanta, if he doesn't go to prison, there's a good chance for the rest of his career he doesn't change how he plays. And
well,
if he
and
can,
we can't
if
can't
we
really
can't say
say
that for
that.
sure, we can't say that for sure. But I
Yeah.
think going to prison, losing out on the NFL for a few years, definitely changed him as a person and who he was as a player. But uh, but you go prior to, and like I said, he's flat out come out and said, like, I did not study playbook. He would
Hmm.
glance at it, but that was like he wasn't doing
Let's
the
see.
preparation necessary to
Where
be
is
a franchise quarterback in the NFL. He flat wasn't. And he had the success that he had just based off of his athletic ability alone, which
I'm
is
trying to
the
see like I'm looking at Pro Football Reference, just kind of just glancing at like where his best years were, and his best years was like 2010, um, which was the only time he went to the playoffs with um, the Eagles. 21 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. They don't give me his rushing, which is kind of why wouldn't you give me? Hold on, I'm curious
what
now.
what while you're looking that
Um,
up, King,
yeah,
like, yes, do they look at Lamar? You look at Lamar and you can say, well, he changed. Well, but he also did it in way like Lamar's now been in the league uh, roughly maybe a little bit longer, but he's now been in the league roughly the same amount of time that Vic was with the Falcons before he went to prison. He was, because we drafted him in what, 2001 or was it 2000? It was either 2000 or 2000. We drafted Mike Vick. He goes to prison in 2008. Okay, if he goes to prison in 2008, that means he was with us for 7 years. Okay, Lamar's been in the league 6 to 7 years at this point, and we saw his progression in year what, 4 or 3? Is it 3 or 4 when
three
he wins the
ish.
MVP? Right. So
Okay, that
obviously
didn't go
he
well.
was looking at his playbook and he was studying his playbook and he was doing the preparation necessary to be
Yeah,
what he. But
because in
Vic
Atlanta,
flat out was not doing that and did not do that prior to him going to prison. He just
yeah,
didn't do
because
it.
in with Atlanta, he never topped over 3,000 yards passing and got 20 touchdowns in 2006. So, and had a completion percentage of like 52%, which is not good for a QB.
Yeah,
So,
King, you're saying that we discredit Vic. I'm not discrediting
no,
Vic.
no, no,
I'm giving you the reality of Vic.
no, no.
Okay.
I I'll say this flat out, and I'll tell anybody and everybody, right? And Jonathan can attest because he was my friend during that time period. Like I didn't watch football, right? But in the fact that I didn't watch football, but I knew who Michael Vick was. Like I'll tell anybody, like what he did for this city and what he did for this team, is something that to this point, outside of Deion Sanders, no other player has done. Like
Yeah.
there was a buzz about this team that hadn't been there. So, dude, I'll give him credit. And since he's retired, because he spent what how many years? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in Philly, and then 2 throwaway years at age 34 and 35. We'll just, so 5 years in Philly. He spent almost as much time in Philly as he did here in Atlanta, but yet as soon as he retired, he comes back here. So as far as
Yeah.
like an ambassador for this team, what he did, like as far as putting it on the map, like no, I ain't trying to discredit
No.
anything that Vic did. And there's you go to the stadium today, and you're going to see as many, if not more, Vic jerseys than well, maybe not as many Matt Ryan jerseys, but you definitely
King.
see a ton of Vic jerseys.
Yeah. But like you're asking who was his Julio, who was his Tony, who was his Pitts, who was his Ridley? Are you kidding me? You're asking that. Would it really matter if he had a Julio? Would it really matter if he had a Tony Gonzalez? Would it really matter if he had a Pitts or Ridley or any of those guys if he's not studying the playbook? If he's not
He's not
doing the
putting in the
things,
work.
if he's not putting in the work to be the best quarterback on the field for the Atlanta Falcons that he can possibly be, okay, if he's not putting in that work, the weapons around him don't matter. The O line in front of him doesn't matter. Okay, you're not going to get
Okay.
he went through college for real quick. He went through
No,
college.
go ahead.
He went through college and was great in college because he was the most athletically gifted player in college that year, or for the years that he was there. And he was able to outrun people. He was able to do all the things he was able to do because he was just more athletically gifted. It didn't matter what play you called up. Okay, when he first gets to the NFL, yes, is he one of the most athletically gifted players in the NFL? Absolutely, but he's not the most. Okay, and there are still professional players out there that do study their playbooks, that do study their opponents, that do look for tendencies and know what their guys are going to do. That as long as you kept, and that's the reason why we kept losing to Tampa Bay, because Tampa Bay had the players and they had the scheme to be able to keep him in the pocket and make him beat you from the pocket. If you did that, Mike Vick was losing that game because he was not prepared to read defenses. He was not prepared for any of the wrinkles that were going to get thrown at him because he was not in his playbook and he was not putting in the work. That is not discredit. That is the reality from his own mouth. From his own mouth. That is what he told us. Okay, so you want to sit here and tell me that I'm discrediting him? He discredited himself. If you count that as discredit, like that's
so
what
he had in that really good year in Philadelphia that they went to the playoffs. He had LaShawn McCoy, Shady McCoy. Mm-hmm. He had Deshaun Jackson.
Yep.
He had Jeremy Maclin. Now both of those guys went for almost 1,000 yards, and he had Brent Selleck, who was at the time Jason Selleck's brother. So
yeah,
another really good tight end for his time. Jason Avant, a good slot receiver. So I mean he had weapons, but anyway, this is not a defend and or discredit. Like I ain't worried about like this Matty Ice in the Ring of Honor.
Yes.
Maybe one day they'll put Vic in.
The guy that put in the work to be the best that he could possibly be. I watched it, Fred. You're sitting here telling me I don't understand how special he was. Okay. I'm sitting here I sat there and watched him when he ran through those guys like split the Minnesota. I was there watching that game. Okay, I was there when he first stepped foot in the NFL in the preseason. I watched every single game that he played. Okay, and every single season, what we heard was Mike Vick is going to do this, and Mike, he's got another year under his belt. He's gonna know this much and this much and this much, and we kept hoping that the quarterbacking part of being a quarterback was going to come around.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, I wanted it so bad. I was like, if he could put that together and be a legit pocket passing quarterback, along with the athletic ability to outrun and juke
do all that stuff,
do all that exciting stuff. You put those two things together, and that right there is
it's what every
win
team,
some Super Bowls.
I was about to say it's what every team has been looking for since a Mike Vick hits the scene. and that's what teams are trying to find now. Thank you, Willie Doc. Well, with the $2, he says, showing some love. Catch y'all on the replay. Appreciate you, good sir.
Appreciate you, Willie.
Um, but yeah, so I still think at the end of the day, you know, it was yeah, Millie says he got out of control once Reeves left. Yeah, some guys.
He got Reeves fired. Like he was the reason why Reeves was fired.
Look, at the end of the day, inconsistent quarterback play. Just go talk to Arthur Smith. Inconsistent quarterback play get you fired every time as a coach.
Yep,
it's just straight up. So, I think that was pretty much it, huh? Oh no, trading for Matthew Judon.
Yeah.
As we transition into maybe a less heated topic. See John's face getting red there.
I still love you, King.
That's
but
it.
We're just never going to see eye to eye on that.
There's things that there are things that we're just not going to agree on, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So there was an article. It was not rumored. Okay, let me put it this way. It was rumored that the Patriots might be looking to offload like some of their talent. And not just, and so the Falcons became a likely destination. Why'd you get small? You got small on me. What'd you do? Oh, you left. Anyway, so what are you doing?
I don't know how I got small.
I don't either.
Did I click something? Yeah.
You're over here clicking buttons.
I don't know how I clicked it.
I think Judon is expecting, like, he's on an expiring contract, which is probably why you have this being brought up. But right now, that's going to be about the only way we get any kind of like bump in pass rushing production if we do something like go out and trade for a Matthew Judon or something of that nature. In the article, they were talking about like trading a fourth for him or something like that, or maybe it was even a conditional fifth, and it was because you're going to have to pay him. Is that something that you would be willing to entertain? Because I know for me, I would. Because right now, that's the one area that I'm concerned about, or one of the areas is the pass rush. Is because right now you're going to be relying on rookies, as in like Braylon Trice, Rukaroro, and Brandon Dorless, along with Ebiketie and Lorenzo Carter. So that doesn't necessarily scream like super, like doesn't strike fear in the hearts of O linemen, at least not right now. Now, last year, Judon had 4 sacks, but he only played in 4 games. And then I think he got hurt. But the year before, he had 15 and a half sacks and 12 and a half. So are you trading for a 31-year-old pass rusher coming off an injury? Would be, I guess, my question. Because, like Millie says, if we bring in Judon, then all the young studs we got now won't be getting the snaps to develop. Because if you bring in a Judon, you're bringing him in generally with the intent to, re-sign him. So then you're going to give him snaps because you're like, so is there any pass rusher that you think you could actually get that would make this team any better?
I mean, yeah, I think there were plenty of potentials that we could have gotten this offseason to do that. And we tried. It just didn't work out for us in any of those situations. But would I take Matthew Judon? Absolutely. I would take him on our team. But I do understand the thought process behind not necessarily wanting him to come in and potentially take snaps away from some of the young guys. Because I mean, you're never going to. It's a situation of if you bring in Matt Judon, then you're playing for today instead of and kind of eschewing progress towards potentially better production in the future by taking away those snaps from those young guys. But it does give you some reassurance that maybe things are going to be a little bit better on the defensive line than what we think they're going to be. But again, like I'm willing to give them an off season. Let's or one season. Let's see what whatever it is they come up with. If they end up trading for Judon, cool. If they don't, and we go in with what we got, let's see what happens. Like
Yeah, because
if it works out, hey, we didn't have to give up anything extra, and we still got a pass rush out of it,
no
and we
doubt.
got a bunch of guys, a whole bunch of snaps this season, and that means probably more than anything going into season 2 for some of the young guys.
Yeah, that's my deal. Is like, when everybody's like, oh well, we had a good defense last year. I mean, we had an okay defense that at times got exposed, and then your leading pressure guys, neither one of those guys are on the team anymore. Your leading sack guys, Bud Dupree and Calais Campbell. You didn't bring either one of those guys back, potentially because of the age, especially of a Calais Campbell. Um, and, you might wanted to go more towards the youth. As we said before, Ebiketie got as many pressures in half the snaps that, Bud Dupree got. So, or got as many sacks rather. So we'll see how that youth movement goes. I think after last year in LA, I don't think Raheem's scared of a youth movement. They were playing two third round rookies last year on that D line. But again, the aforementioned Aaron Donald gives you that kind of confidence.
Yeah.
But maybe they're feeling like, hey, we got the veteran presence of Grady Jarrett and David Onyemata, and we're going to be running more of a penny front look, which ensures more one-on-ones versus double teams, and maybe they feel like they're going to win as much with scheme as with talent. So, but the other name that was been like kind of linked to the Falcons has been James Bradbury, because Philadelphia apparently has a lot of like influx of young talent, and they might be willing to move off of um, a corner.
I mean,
So,
I'd take him.
I mean, I would definitely throw him into the mix of Clark Phillips and a Mike Hughes. Clark Phillips has the something he's never going to be able to improve on, which is his size.
Yeah, but I will say this: like, if you're, again, we can only infer so much. Some of it's based on snaps and where guys, what guys are. But even then, like, some guys maybe played a little bit more with some of the twos than the ones, and can you really say a whole lot about that right now? Not really. Sometimes it's just seeing what combination of guys seems to work best, and they're just trying to find that out. But for now, they've had the off-season workouts, the OTAs, the practices, and everything. They're going to go over that stuff over the next month and a half. Try to figure out, a little less than that as we. Um, so in that scenario, they're going to be looking at it, and if they find like something that they feel is a deficiency, then they're going to try to work on fixing that. But
right.
maybe they feel comfortable with what they got, and they just don't see any need
We'll
to go
see.
anywhere else.
Yeah. Like I said, I actually don't expect them to make any kind of moves. I expect them to roll with what they got, at least into the start of camp, unless just a great situation pops up. But I fully expect them. It sounds like they're happy with what they have on roster right now. So
Yeah.
we'll just have to see how it goes from there.
The hope is, the hope at this point is that the sum is greater than the parts,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
That's kind of where we're at this point. Like, yeah, we've had we've picked a lot of weapons in the so the offense is kind of set. Not saying you can't ever add to the offense. Yeah, we can, and we did. But the offense is kind of set right now. So I imagine that they're looking at the defense. They at least like somewhat what they're seeing because we've tried to make some moves, but we haven't gone overboard with like desperation moves.
No, right.
So that's been I've liked that we haven't been desperate. It's like, hey, we like this guy. We'd like to bring him in. Let's try to get him. Do the best you can. If it just doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And you don't get desperate. Like, well, I'll throw in this. Try to throw the kitchen sink and see if you can get it. But um, you know, going into next season, obviously it all depends. For all we know, we may come out of this season with a top 5 defense somehow or some way
Who knows?
that is flying all over the field. And you're like, oh, we don't need to. We got a bunch of rookie guys that are on contract. We don't have to go spend big in defense because we're good. And then we're just trying to figure out where do we actually need to improve. But at the end of the day, like I expect the offense to kind of be on track for most of the season. I expect the defense to probably struggle at times and maybe look good at other times. But I don't necessarily expect them to be consistently really good all season long.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of just the expectations that I have right now.
Yep.
And we'll just have to wait and see.
That's it. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. There's more than a fair chance that we won't have a show next week. I think I have a previous commitment. I'm not 100% sure, so we'll see how that goes. But also, don't foresee anything newsworthy to talk about. We're really getting into the slow period. We have a little over a month away till training camp. That date came out today. It starts the 24th of July. So that's a week from Monday. So next Monday we'll have exactly a month. Fred, negative as always. Okay. Whatever, buddy. Negative as whatever. I swear, some of these folks, man, y'all hear what y'all want to hear. Okay. Anyway,
I didn't think anything I said was negative.
Yeah, right. I got it. Yeah, negative as always. That's us. Yep, negative. All right. So we appreciate y'all listening. Apparently, we're nothing but Debbie Downers. As always, you can interact.
We don't have Toby here, so I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to win the Super Bowl this year. That's just how it's going to be.
We'll have to get Mike and John on, so we can get Mike ramped up about winning the Super Bowl. But anyway, all right, y'all. As always, y'all can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grimm1128, GRIMM1128. Jonathan.
At Jonathan M. Holder. Come by, say hi.
There you go. And as always, Falcons fans, remember, be positive and rise up.
Rise up.